All right, we can begin the public meeting of the Mayor and Council for Monday, June 4th, 2012. It is now 8 p.m. I'll call the meeting to order. If we can stand for a moment of silent prayer. If Councilman Porco could lead us in a salute to the flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and attend any meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interest is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with this law, the Mayor and Council of the Borough of River Edge have caused notice of this meeting to be published by having a date, time, and place thereof posted in the Borough Hall, and notices were sent to the Record and the Ridgewood News. The mission of this governing body is to provide essential services through the establishment and implementation of public policy to safeguard our infrastructure, providing honest, courteous, and professional services, establishing a sense of trust and accomplishment with our residents. Through research and prudent planning, we seek to minimize risks while improving municipal services. We are sensitive to the needs of our taxpayers while realizing that this governing body cannot be all things to all people within the revenue constraints imposed by state mandates, economic conditions, and prevailing attitudes about taxation. Again, we're on the record both by sound and by video. You can watch members of the public can watch a replay of the meeting on YouTube, and there's a link to that from the borough website. If you'd like to be both seen and heard, when the public portion of the meeting begins and it's open to the public, you can step forward and speak at the microphone, and we can both see and hear you. Can I have a roll call?
Councilman Murphy?
Here.
Councilman Porter?
Here.
Councilman Porto?
Here.
Councilman McMillan?
Here.
Councilman Bartoloni?
Here.
Councilman Papaleo?
Here.
And Mayor Mastromantola?
Here. I'd like a motion to approve the minutes of the Mayor and Council for the work session and regular meeting of May 7th, 2012.
Yes. So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Abstain.
I'd like a motion to approve the minutes of the Mayor and Council work session and regular meeting of May 21st, 2012.
So moved.
Is
Abstain.
there a second?
Abstain.
Second, I think it was here. Yeah.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
And there's some
I couldn't be the only
abstentions,
one.
right?
That's the one was just there.
All right, and can I have a motion to approve the minutes of the Mayor and Council work session of May 29th, 2012?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Abstain.
And two abstentions, Denise. All right, we have no proclamations and awards tonight. I will confirm the appointment of Stuart Hensinger of 236 Madison Avenue as the volunteer Deputy Emergency Management Coordinator for a 3-year term through April 1st, 2015, effective tomorrow, June the 5th, 2012. Mr. Hensinger is present. Would you like to be sworn, Mr. Hensinger? Sure. All right. If you could put your left hand on the Bible, raise your right hand. I state your name.
I, Stuart Hensinger,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey.
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey.
I will bear true faith
I will bear true faith
and allegiance to the same
and allegiance to the same,
and to the government
and to the government
established in the United States
established in the United States
and in this state
and in this state
under the authority of the people.
under the authority of the people.
And that I state your name,
And that I, Stuart Hensinger,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully
that I will faithfully
impartially,
impartially,
and justly perform
and justly perform
all of the duties
all of the duties
of the office of Volunteer Deputy Emergency Management Coordinator.
and will perform the duties of the volunteer
Deputy
Deputy
Emergency
Emergency
Management Coordinator. Okay, that's good. To the best of my ability.
To the best of my ability.
So help me God. Congratulations. All right. Thank you, Stuart. We're all counting on you in the event of an emergency. I hope it never happens.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, I got your phone number.
All right, can I have a motion to approve the salary change of Robert Tarpey, General Repair 2, Department of Public Works, from an annual salary of $59,022 to $59,618 due to a step increase from General Repair 2 to Step 4 to Step 5, effective April 28, 2012.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstained?
Mayor,
Yes.
perhaps in the interest of time, maybe we
Do
could
them
just make a
all.
motion to,
By consent?
Yes.
by consent?
All right, so let's do, thank you, Al. Let's do a motion by consent for Robert Tarpey, salary change for Scott Otter, for Jason Melito, for Megan Belton, Daniel George, Anth Ciaflis, salary change for John Mouthy, school crossing guard, William Sanders, school crossing guard, salary change for Lisa Hessman, recycling coordinator, salary change for Colleen Goodell, DPW, salary change of Lisa Hessman, administrative assistant, salary change for Michael Gonnerman, police dispatcher, salary change for Mary Jane Brandow, zoning and planning secretary, salary change for Leonard Herman, plumbing inspector, salary change for Anth Ciaflis, senior bus dispatcher, Anita Gatto, planning zoning assessor clerk, Christopher Lishman, Department of Public Works, Nicole Schapner, the new TA, technical assistance to the construction code official with a 6-month probationary period, and finally, Adrian Capasso, the health department. Can I have a motion to move them by consent?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstained? Thank you. All right, on file with the clerk's office is correspondence that is indicated in the council agenda that's available to the public. Should any member of the public wish to review these letters and correspondence. In addition, there are monthly reports from April 2012 from the tax collector, the Shade Tree Commission, and the Historic Commission. We have an ordinance on for first reading, ordinance number 1766. Denise, can you read the title?
An ordinance to amend section 2 of ordinance 1761 entitled, an ordinance appropriating $6,000 from the general capital fund, capital improvement fund for purchase of equipment.
Alan, could you tell us something about this ordinance?
This ordinance is just a change in the scope. We had originally received a request from the police department for traffic signs and also for cones, and I inadvertently left out the traffic cone portion of this, so we're amending this ordinance to allow the purchase of the traffic cones as well as the traffic signs within the same amount of money.
All right, any questions or discussion? Is there a motion to adopt this ordinance on the first reading?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstained? All right, the ordinance will be listed for a public hearing, it will be advertised in the newspaper, and it will be scheduled for a public hearing and a final adoption. Denise, when will that be?
June 18th.
June 18th. All right, we have an ordinance on for second reading. That is ordinance number 1765. Denise, can you read the title to that ordinance?
An ordinance amending chapter 384-3 of the revised general ordinances of the Borough of River Edge.
All right, this is the shade tree ordinance that we've been diligently working on for, some people say, up to 5 years, amending the shade tree ordinance to better regulate the borough's green canopy and shade trees. So I have a motion to, since this is on for a second and final adoption and a public hearing, can I have a motion to open the hearing to the public to speak on ordinance number 1765 and only ordinance number 1765?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you. Okay, the hearing is open to the public. I know we have members of the Shade Tree Commission here. Would any member of the public wish to speak for or against the proposed amendment to the Shade Tree ordinance? No one. Yeah. This is the public hearing, so... Just introduce yourself for the record.
Liz Stewart, Shade Tree Commission. Jen Dougherty, Shade Tree Commission.
Okay.
We put out a memo on Friday, just in support of the ordinance after the questions from the first reading. Did everyone get a second? Okay. Were there any further questions from that?
I had a question, and the question I think is a question for Sam and also for the Shade Tree Commission. Sam, you sent a final revised version on June the 1st?
Yes.
The version that you sent, that I got, the attachment that I opened, includes all the marginal notes.
Right.
It's hard to tell what's taken out and what's put back in. So I had a question about that. I know that the definition of right-of-way was changed a little bit. My question is the definition of tree removal and protection permit still in the ordinance, or is it out of the ordinance?
No, it's in the ordinance.
It's in the ordinance, okay. I had a question about, on page 4 of the ordinance,
What section?
can you go to page 4, paragraph 1?
Page 4.
Page 4, paragraph 1, the final phrase is, upon the appraisal of a trained forester or licensed tree expert or member of the Shade Tree Commission. Is that in the ordinance or out of the ordinance?
Where are you reading it from?
That's this shaded area right here.
Paragraph 1.
Just trying to find out if the shaded area is in the...
I didn't change it. I just took out the marginal notes and I just basically duplicated the whole thing. So
Okay.
I'll just see number 1. Okay. Say shall have jurisdiction.
Over here. It's in the jurisdiction.
Yeah. The protection removal will be determined upon appraisal of a trained forester or a licensed tree expert or a member of the Shade Tree Commission.
Okay,
It's
good.
all in there.
All right, so that's all in there.
Yes.
And if you go down to D, paragraph D3, there's a sentence that's underlined.
Yes, that should have come out. That should not have remained in there.
All right, so that sentence regarding the appeal is not in the proposed ordinance.
It is in the proposed ones. The underlining should have come out.
The underline should have, okay, the underline should have come out. Okay. And on page 6 of the proposed ordinance, you have a section 10, notice to adjoining property owner.
Right.
The question I have is, this section requires notice to adjoining property owner. I think when it's proposed that when a tree is determined to be located in a buffer area or in close proximity to a property line, and it doesn't really give a definition of what close proximity is. I know that it goes on to say that if a tree is on the property line, you have to give notice to your neighbor that you intend to seek a tree removal permit and remove the tree. But, I don't know, it could be, there seems to be some ambiguity as to what close proximity means. So,
Can we strike that?
Buffer area, a land use term that would have, a general usage? Is anybody familiar with that?
Well,
Buffer area?
yeah, I think what Sam was referring to is the buffer area that's in our zoning ordinance.
Becomes more relevant in a commercial setting where there is a certain buffer required between the residential and the commercial area.
All right.
The buffer area would be generally an area, I would say, that would be on the boundary line, in very close proximity to the boundary line, which typically would have plantings, hedgerows and stuff like that.
Liz, does the Shade Tree Commission have strong feelings about this notification to an adjoining property owner?
We didn't put this in, the code inspector did, so we don't, that does not, of course, we don't need that in there.
No, we felt like if this was something that he felt that he sees, and
This
he thought,
is Robert Burns.
Right.
Bob Burns.
We didn't actually recommend, we did, yeah, that was the code
Bob
inspector.
Burns said something like this.
All right. All right, so the Shade Tree Commission doesn't have any strong feelings about that?
No.
All right. That's all the questions that I had. Anybody else want to speak on it on behalf of the... Do you want to speak on any other sections?
Well, I guess, did everyone get the picture? I mean,
Yes.
This is what we're talking about. This is what we wanted to stress. This is what we're talking about for this ordinance. There's so much flexibility in this ordinance. All your concerns with the regular homeowner putting up a deck or putting up a small something, it doesn't apply to this ordinance. Anyone doing regular maintenance, it actually says in this ordinance that they are exempt. So if I wanted to take a tree down in my yard, just to take a tree down, that's exempt from this. That would not apply to this. It just seems that there's a confusion of what this ordinance is for. It also says that if the homeowner is not, or actually a large construction project, if they're not happy with our decision, they can come before the mayor and council and bring it to you and see if you still would want to uphold the ordinance. It's something we should do. We started this ordinance 5, 6, 7 years ago because we are out every day. We do almost 300 work orders a day. We knock on doors, we talk to residents. They were fed up with the major construction going on in town. They asked us to do something, so we responded. The mayor and council at that time wanted us to start something, so we did. And then councils change, and then new people come in, and you have to start explaining yourself over and over and over. And we just feel like it's time that the council steps up and tries to look to the future. I know that it was mentioned the last time that we're looking to the future to set an ordinance, and if someone comes in, a different shade tree, they can always do it a different way. We're asking you to look to the future for the trees. Do you want our tree-lined streets to be here in 5 or 10 years, or do you want big construction projects to just come and take it away? I think you should be looking out for the homeowners. I mean, we're volunteers, but really what we are is non-paid employees of the town. We run a department. And I don't think that you realize that, and we're giving you our strong opinion of what we should do as a town from what we see as experts. I am a licensed tree expert in New Jersey. I'm not just some volunteer who loves trees and loves hugging trees. If a construction company came in and said, we want to clear cut this area, here's your money, your bond, we would say fine. We wouldn't say that's a nice tree, you have to save it. We would just say, clear cut the area and start over. That's fine. We are more than happy to do construction the way it should be done. But I think you're thinking, I hate to say it this way, but I think you're thinking kind of small, and you're not thinking to the future if you don't approve this ordinance.
Well, the only thing I would say in defense, I think there are two sentiments here. One, should we regulate private trees, and whether private property owner should have the right to remove trees. I think in this particular ordinance, what we tried to do is strike a balance. It doesn't require, there are exemptions here for emergency removal, for maintenance and care, where the private property owner can remove his own tree. So if you want to remove a tree because you're fearful it may strike your house, we cannot prevent or preclude that circumstance. The only instance where the shade tree gets involved with private trees is where it becomes part of the permit process. And that is where someone is either going to build, it could be a deck, it could be an addition, it could be a new house. In that instance where the tree is removed and where there is a permit file, there is then a tree protection permit form that has to be filled out and reviewed by the Shade Tree Commission. In addition, there's an appeal process which also allows that if someone is not happy with the decision of the Shade Tree Commission, they can take an appeal to the council. I would like to just encourage the council to pass this, to give this group an opportunity to let this ordinance develop, to see how it's implemented. We've had other situations where there have been disputes as to whose tree it was. There was a recent incident with the Greenway, where the tree was partially on someone's property and partially, or mostly in the public right-of-way. The woman had cut the tree down, and the Shade Tree Commission handled that by not penalizing the property owner. It was an inadvertence on her part. She didn't realize that the tree was not her tree. She had, I think, pruned or trimmed the tree on several occasions. So I think you got to allow a little bit of discretion with them. It's not a Gestapo organization. They don't really come down hard on people. They're out to protect the municipal canopy of trees. I think in this particular instance, I mean, we even recognize there's a loophole in the ordinance, because if I wanted to build on my property, I could, under the exemption provision, remove all my trees and then file for a permit application. So we know that exists there, but it's an attempt to try to bring the council on board that through the permitting process, the borough will benefit. And it doesn't make it burdensome for the property owner to even if they had to replace a tree on their property, they would have the choice of either replanting or making a contribution to the dedicated tree fund trust. So I think I would like to see it endorsed only from the perspective that I think they spent really tens of hours trying to formulate this. Probably one of the better tree ordinances, certainly in the county, if not in the state. And I think it addresses both the private sector as well as trees that are in the public right-of-way or street trees.
Paul? A couple things. I went through also this thing too, and reading on the printing you had on here. I talked to Sam about this. I talked to a lot of residents in town. Just in my own opinion, listen, I'm a big property rights person. So as much as you are a tree rights person, I'm a property rights. And whatever you say now is fine. But I'm not worried about you now. I'm worried about councils and other tree services down the commissions down the line, 10, 15, 20 years. I deal with contracts all day long, with customers. You say one thing wrong, and all of a sudden they're on top of you, whether it's vague or not. Reading through this here, when I see small projects will not be affected. Small project to you may be one size, small project to somebody else may be a different size. Now, I'm taking this also on a personal end of it, because I can put addition in my house. I can already see a tree problem that's going to affect my neighbor and a couple of things on the property. I had 3 big oaks on my property that fell down, missed my house by inches. Could have taken out my whole house. Now, it wasn't my fault they fell. The storm came in. I understand your point. I read about that you were losing trees. But my concern is just allowing more government moving towards private property. And if I can state other cases that I looked up in Long Island, up in Boston, up in areas that do have these problems, I'm concerned about them. But the thing that I really have a problem with is just opening the door to allow private property. I'm not in agreement with these companies that come and clear out properties. I agree with you. I think you clear it out, you're not really, it's not good for the town in that end of it. I looked at your pictures. I couldn't really see them because they came out. They couldn't really see them. So it looked like they were curbside
They're all, yeah,
It looks like they're curbside trees, right?
they are.
Yeah, the curbside trees, which isn't that borough property at that point?
Those are.
Yeah.
That's the,
So who approved those to get taken down if they're borough property?
we had nothing in place saying, once they come in and clear cut a property, you change the environment, and a tree...
I understand that.
lives-
I clearly understand that. I know that.
So those weren't taken down. Those were construction projects that were done, finished, the contractor is gone, and within 2 to 3 years, those are what our borough trees look like.
Mhm.
Then we were left with the cost of removing them and replacing them, in which case we had no money to replace them because we had no budget for 2 years.
I understand that. I'm a builder. I understand.
But what happens in the surrounding area on that property, you take down all the trees on the property, you've changed the character of the neighborhood. Trees, unfortunately, their roots live on a property, but their effect is in the community. And that's where this...
Clearly understand that.
Okay.
I clearly understand, and I agree with you.
Okay.
Listen, I had 3 huge trees I love, and they fell down. I'm like, but I put up 12 more trees on top of that.
Not everyone does that.
Well, I did, but I'm saying is I put up other trees because I wanted the privacy. But my point is, and it's simple, is I don't know, I'm a big property rights person. I just don't feel that if you give an inch, what's going to happen is government always comes in and takes a yard.
Really?
And that's what I'm concerned about, and that's the only thing I'm concerned
Right, I
about.
saw something with generators in town, that you're passing something with generators. Who's to tell me I can't run power in my house during a storm? It's the same thing. You're worried about noise affecting the community. The trees are affecting the community. It's the same issue. But you're putting your rights on someone saying you can't have power during a storm.
We never said it.
We withdrew that ordinance.
Yeah.
We voted it down,
Yeah.
yes. The exact same rationale and everything else, so...
I'm on your side on that, too. See, I'm on your side on that.
Without building, all of a sudden now when you do a project and you have to have certain drainage for water, so now you have to have a tank, right?
Yeah.
So now you're telling a resident, well, where's the water going to go from? So now, right, you now have to tell these people they have to have a water tank put into their property. So things happen.
I understand.
And it's continuing.
Yeah, but that comes under planning, because that's a dry well, and that has to be on a property
But
now by
it did
code.
not before. That's a newer...
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So new things happen for residents. You want to live in a community like this, there's certain things that are going to change. We need to give back to the community. I mean, this is the problem, and I'm seeing, you're thinking so small with the private owner. Private ownership, we're looking at the bigger scale. I mean...
Yeah, but Jen, we represent the private ownership.
You know what, I get it, but you have to trust us. Liz and I have been on this commission for 14, 12 years.
And Charlie.
So, Charlie's been, how many years, Charlie?
17.
17 years. Yeah, the commission who's going to be, will probably be here, and some of you won't be here. I think you have to trust what we've done over these years, and has there really been complaints about a department?
Yeah, absolutely.
About our department?
Absolutely.
A lot. I mean... you
Enough,
haven't-
right? And they call me on it. They say, listen, why is
well,
Shade Tree giving me a...
So you've gotten one big complaint about us.
No, I've got a couple, Jen. I got a couple. If I can go back and list them, I'll try to find them for you. But I did get a couple on it.
I find that really insulting.
Well, hold on a
you're
second.
saying that I get a lot of
Hold on a
insults?
second. We're not going to talk about insulting stuff here, because when people call me and say, why is Shade Tree giving me a hard time regarding the tree I have here? Now, over the past couple of years, I'm not pointing at you guys. I'm just saying, people come to me because I represent the residents.
Yeah.
So they say, why, my neighbor was one, okay?
Absolutely, and we resolved that issue as Mr. Surratt.
All right, but you came to me, you said, did anybody complain? They complained to me. They said something, they had a problem with that.
Legitimate complaints that have come to us and said, like, we've been brought before the mayor and council and said legitimately they're doing a bad job.
They're all legitimate.
It's not legitimate unless we say our side of it. Then it's not really, it's a complaint, but it's not a founded complaint.
Yeah, I understand, but let me go back to the point here. My point is there's no discretion on anything. And I understand where you guys are going with this. I do. But it's a fine line when it says, it doesn't really define small projects. It doesn't define it. There's no definition of anything. But when you give a government organization a chance to step on private property, then you lose property rights. And that's the only thing I'm concerned about, because when you look at the planning board and they look at your property and say, yes, you need a dry well in there now. That dry well has been added to the code, has been looked at, it's been looked at drainage in the streets. Yes, I understand that.
Yes, it's adequate.
And so I understand trees have too, but there's people here, you're taking the responsibility out of the homeowner. And because a couple companies, which is less than 2%, that come in here, take down a house and build a new house in there and tear out all the trees there, you're putting everybody in one boat, and you say, now we have to make an ordinance for the whole town because a couple people did the wrong thing. To me, I just think, I wish we can find a way that we can go to builders instead, and say, and put a law on them, that they can't clear cut. Well, obviously you can't because that's against the law, because you're discriminating. But hold on, but my point in this is, I'm only coming this from property rights. I'm not coming from shade tree, I'm not coming from canopies that are over the town. I'm not a tree hater, I'm just looking at property rights, and that's it. And that's the way I have to look at it. And then not, it's insulting me to call me small-minded. I'm not. I'm looking at the total end result of what's going to happen. If you look back 70, 80 years ago, look at the pictures on the wall. We had less trees in town than we have right now. But apparently we're in a downturn where we don't have enough trees. Now, I'm not a tree expert, so I'm not saying, okay, we need to just keep the trees up there because we just need them up there. I don't have that information that you guys have. But I can see that I think we have more trees than we did 70, 80 years ago. But my point is that we look like we're making a law out of pure desperation. We see trees coming down in a storm. It's 2 or 3 years that storms are coming that are knocking our trees down. Now we have to make a law for this. I know it's been working 6 years.
Not the case. A lot of our trees are mature in town or medium. There's nothing new. Like, if you're looking ahead, in 10 to 20 years, we're not going to have the canopy because the old trees are going to be gone and we have nothing replacing them.
But they will come back.
How are they going to come back?
They're going to grow back.
Where? Where are they coming from?
Yeah, hold on a second. So trees will stop at a certain height and that's it? They're never going to come back?
They sprout. You mean they sprout on their own? Like how?
Do trees grow on their own?
Not when people are landscaping the way they do today.
Yeah, but see, now you're talking about, again, about...
It's not a forest.
I don't know if I understand. Trees. I don't get that. You have to plant trees for them to grow. We haven't planted in over 3 years.
I did. I put trees on my property.
You did. We have not as a borough, and residents...
Okay, but again, so you're going to say the borough needs to come in there and spend our money to put trees on private property, because now you're confused.
No.
Taking the floor.
All right.
It's not the public.
It's not.
What was that?
I think council thinks that this is the public hearing portion of it. We're all going to get a chance to comment on it. You've had the floor for over 5 minutes.
No problem. I appreciate it.
So, is there any other member of the public who wishes to speak on the proposed shade tree ordinance? All right. I have a motion to close the meeting to the public.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, now before we call the vote, would any member of council like to comment on the proposed shade tree ordinance?
Can I just finish? I just want to finish. I don't mean to cut you off here because...
No, this is your time, Paul.
I do, Paul. I didn't mean to...
Clock is going to start again.
I'm not going to start again, I promise. When I was reading over this breakdown of it, I was just, we're talking about insults. I look at this as, this one line, anyone doing large construction on the property line, $400 means nothing. I'm in business, and I lose jobs by $400. And to assume that $400 is not a lot of money when you're doing $20,000, $30,000 it's kind of arrogant, because there are people, when we go into the end of the job and they finish their addition because they couldn't afford to finish it, $400 is a lot of money.
But you get a 7% increase because you planted on your property.
I understand that.
So you've made your money back.
I understand that, but your initial purchase on things, people only have sometimes initial purchase.
But as a businessman, you understand that you're making more back.
I do that, yeah, but you try to sell it, you sell it to a homeowner, it's not as easy. But I'm saying, my point isn't even that, it's $400, so what? But again, my point was, and I'll pretty much done after this, my point was property rights, and that's what I agreed on. So I understand your point, but I have to stay with my right on property rights. So, thank you, ma'am.
All right, you guys had your hand up before, Kathleen. Anybody want?
You could go over there.
Kathleen?
I just wanted to ask Councilman Quartz what were the 2 cases he was referring to in Long Island and Boston?
Long Island was out of a Hauppauge, Long Island.
Hauppauge?
Hauppauge, yeah, I'm sorry. I call it Hauppauge. And the other one was out of, it's a borough in Boston, I don't have the information, but I get that.
What were the details of those cases?
Well, it was property rights. It was people wanted to cut down the property, they wanted to cut down their trees, and putting additions on it, and they found that they couldn't because they were being fined to the town. And some of these cases still going.
Anything else? Anybody else? Ed?
Yeah, I think there was a consensus here that we believed there was a reasonable
there should be reasonable controls with regard to the street trees. And we're all getting hung up on the private trees. I don't know why we just can't go with a clean ordinance limiting it to the street trees. And if there's the interest to deal with the private trees later on, either through, a lot of them are already covered under the zoning and the site plan ordinances. Those are covered by the site plan, by the planning boards and the zoning board. I know for my own house, when we came in to get variances, one of the conditions was that we weren't going to remove a large tree. And because we wanted a variance, yes, we will keep the tree. But that was because we wanted a variance from the town. There was a reasonable expectation that the zoning board can put that control on us. Same with the planning board. We just did the application for Now Atkins. If they went by the letter of this, we would have had 1/10 the trees that we're getting from them in terms of what they've decided. And you were involved with what they're proposing to do there. Like I said, I think we could put the reasonable restrictions or protections for street trees, limit it at that, and I think you'd have, if not a majority, you'd get this ordinance passed. And I think that's where the problem seemed to have been. That's where most of the pictures you've shown are coming from. I'm willing to cede you some discretion. I'm waiting for the first 3 years from now, when the first developer comes to get back his $10,000 or $15,000 in bonds, and you say, no, the trees died. And they're going to say, prove that it was something we did. We're going to call in tree doctors and have competing testimonies or, tree autopsies, I don't know. But these are the kind of things that are going to happen in the future, whether it's a developer or whether, no one's going to cede $10,000 or $15,000 easily over to the town because we say the tree died 2 or 3 years later because it's something they did. So I'm anticipating there's going to be some correction to this as we go along. So I'm willing to cede you some jurisdiction and trust your judgment on a lot of these matters. But like I said, I agree with Paul on the private trees. I don't think we should be getting in there. I'm glad you did not recommend this notice to adjoining property owners, because when I read that, it was just, I just picture all kinds of feuds going on between neighbors and whether shade tree gets involved and have to appeal to the county. It's so cumbersome and unnecessary. So I said my recommendation would be just to a clean ordinance, limiting it to, and the other thing I would say is that you should trigger it on a demo permit, not a building permit, because the heavy equipment is probably coming onto the property when they come for a demo permit for the house, not the building permit. So you probably want that, those protections in place up front before you knock the building down to begin with, because that's when I would guess most of the damage is being done in the first place. I do have some other concerns about some of the technical aspects about a 10-foot perimeter around a tree. I don't know whether that's going to be workable in all situations. I don't know whether that kind of language should actually be in an ordinance. That should be in the guidance for somebody.
We didn't put that in either. That was the code.
Okay, because again, that's something that's, I think, to be very difficult to enforce and to work. So, like I said, I think a stripped-down ordinance limited to the street trees with some of the bonding. Then I'd be in favor of this.
So, Ed, what were the sections that you have difficulty with?
I would take out anything with regard to the private trees. Essentially, what I would change is under project permit application. I'd say something like upon filing application for a demolition permit or building permit, and then just end it, removal and/or protection of public trees, period. I would remove section about the private trees and the private bonding, I guess, which is section 6. I would take out section 10, which we talked about. I would probably take out paragraph C of section 11. And the other question I had, maybe the tree can answer it, on section 8 under bonding requirements. It says after the first year and the second year, the trees will be evaluated. Based on the evaluation, the commission will determine whether the cash landscape maintenance bond or equipment will be returned, extended, or moved. Can you extend it past a maximum of the 3 years?
No.
So
it would be the first or second year.
So you're saying that the bonding would be up for a maximum of 3 years?
Right.
I think it says not to.
It says for up to 3 years, but then it says you can extend it, so it's not clear if that means you can extend it past the 3 years.
After the first year or the second
Yeah,
year.
but it says you can extend it, so I don't know, you cannot extend it past that third year.
No.
And then the question is then, like I said, where is there a dispute resolution? Who handles that? Like I said, in case you come back and say, 3 large trees died, we're holding $15,000 in bond money, and the developer says, well, I don't think what I did 3 years ago killed these trees. How are we going to resolve that?
That's paragraph D, that comes before the mayor and council.
So we decided the trees were killed by...
No, what we would do is a tree survey in the beginning and take a picture of it.
I know, but who's to say that it didn't die from some other disease? Like I said, I live on Concord, okay? And when I moved there 11 years ago, we had a full canopy on my block. You go now, and there's a lot of gaps and trees, and those trees came down naturally. They weren't due to construction, they weren't due to, some were due to storms, some were just diseased trees that came down. So we know this canopy depletion happens naturally also. It's not just because of contractors coming in and building houses. So how do you address the situation where someone says, no, this tree it died from disease A or Dutch elm disease or whatever trees get sick from?
Right. I mean, we would evaluate it at the beginning. There's a whole sheet that we do an evaluation, percentages of the type and the condition.
But I'm talking at the end of it.
At that point, if you have a condition that's in fair condition, fair to good condition, and they do a lot of construction, the compaction, all the removal of the trees around it, you can safely assume that if there's significant stress within that first year, it's from construction. So if within that first year, if the tree's looking really good, we may just give back the money after the first year. If it's showing signs of stress, significant stress, it's probably due to construction.
Again, it's probably. And but you have to take it from the other side too. If I'm putting up my money, I'm a contractor, that's probably not going to be good enough for me.
I will tell you if it's the town tree and it's town property, so you've done something in the town to disturb town property.
But I said I'm willing to cede you that.
Right.
But I'm just saying that this is an issue I think that is going to come up.
Most towns do actually have an ordinance protecting their town trees from large construction. That is a given. That's something that is definitely out there and reasonable.
So,
anyway,
anybody
that's my...
else? We have Ed comments. Al, do you want to make any comment?
Just briefly, I agree with what Ed has said. If this ordinance protected the borough trees, you would have unanimous support for this. However this was drafted, however this came to be before us, was not with the input of the people sitting up here as council members. And it went over and above what I thought we had said was to protect the borough trees, which I think is important. It's public property, it's borough property, it should be protected, no one has a right to damage it. But the portions dealing with private property, and I know there's a loophole, which makes me even more upset, to be quite honest, that we would pass a piece of legislation, which this is, that if I'm aware of it, then I'm okay. But if I am a homeowner who doesn't realize that if I cut the tree down, or I want to take a tree down after I got my building permit, then I have to go through this. But if I was aware of it, I just take a tree down before I get my building permit. That doesn't seem to make a lot of sense to me. It doesn't. If you're going to have an ordinance, if you're going to have a piece of legislation, it should accomplish what it's set out to accomplish. This doesn't do it. So my objection to it is really on twofold. And, in terms of the borough shade tree, when we went for capital, and just my position, when we went out for our capital ordinance this year, I asked specifically, can we bond for trees? I'm in favor of borough trees. I was the one who asked Alan if we could do that and put forward $45,000 in bonding for planting of new trees. So I'm in favor of planting trees in the borough, but this just doesn't do it.
So I'll tell you, I went through my notes. It was back in August, and we came here during a work session, and we did not have the private was not in our initial proposal. And we got pushback from council members saying that if you're going to do this, you should do it entirely. You should include private. And then we went back and we redid it. And I went through my notes, and I'm like, we initially said we don't want anything to do with private property. And it was pushback from the council saying that, you know what, if you're going to do it, you should protect it, especially during construction, because there's going to be a lot of construction going on. So I'm listening to you and I understand what you're saying, but we went back and did all this work and did more research and listened to other towns and other ordinances to see why do they include private trees. So I understand what you're saying, but it wasn't the same thing that happened in August. And I know we had a few different council members up there at the time, but it wasn't the same message we received.
All right, before we call the vote, yeah, John?
Just quickly, and as far as the private trees, I know I've never communicated anything but that I would be against something on private property.
Well, right.
I've never, private property, and I think what I was against last time when it didn't include it was also there was some pricing models in there, and that's the part that I was against the last time it came up. At least I know one of the revisions had numbers in it that were higher than I would want to charge a homeowner or whatever. And the other concern I would have on the public trees would be somebody who's redoing their sidewalk. I don't know how you would, it's a small project. I'm not sure if you would get somebody to put up a bond just to do your sidewalk on the construction.
No, that's not involved in this at all.
That has nothing to do with this.
Okay, but then what if the tree dies because they...
We don't, right now, it's just they have to do their sidewalk over. We don't limit that because of the tree. If the tree dies, we take it down, and it's no expense to them.
Okay.
And we
So
don't
that would
limit
be-
anyone from doing sidewalks.
All right, so that would be a good thing. But like I said, the private trees I was never in favor of, and I know I've communicated that. And the one line, the Shade Tree Commission shall have jurisdiction concerning the removal and protection of trees on private and public property unless otherwise exempted.
And the exemption in here was because we talked about it back in August, that people would have the right to take and remove their trees on, on their private property.
But then why would we even see that? You know what I mean? Let's just say public and let's take, well, I have private and then exemptions when we could just say public and that's it. So that was my, and I know I've never communicated, I just want to make it clear that I know I've never communicated that, private trees should be in here, so. that's my-
Here's the reason why. We're really not breaking any new ground here, and this is about trust that we have in our Shade Tree Commission. Developers already have to go to the Shade Tree Commission when they submit a site plan. We're not breaking any new ground. They have to do it now. They've done it on every application. If you need a variance, you have to go to Shade Tree for recommendations. We're not breaking any new ground here. This is what our existing code structure is already like. When this ordinance was first proposed, it was proposed with, I think the first version that Sam drafted had private trees but didn't have public trees. So we asked Sam to amend it, and he amended it to include public trees. And then there was further discussion about limiting private trees. So Sam did that. He limited by putting in a clear exemption for the average property owner that if they have a tree that they have to cut down because it's in bad shape, that they'll cut it down. The only additional thing that's in this proposed ordinance, which has had input from everybody, including Shade Tree and our borough attorney and our construction official and me, is that if you apply for a building permit, you have to have input from Shade Tree. And it doesn't mean that you're going to have to pay money. It doesn't mean, it's only a reporting requirement because we are losing our canopy. All you have to do is talk to John Lynch, and he'll tell you that and he judges the canopy based upon the amount of leaves that we get in the fall. And he'll tell you that the volume of leaves is significantly down over the course of his career because of the hundreds and hundreds of trees that River Edge has lost. And that's how he measures our canopy, is what yardage of leaves he picks up in the fall. And it has decreased dramatically to the extent that we're thinking that we have enough capacity to handle leaves from other towns, that we can handle Oradell's leaves, and we can handle New Milford's leaves, and we can do shared services because we have a huge tub grinder that we could use to turn the leaves from neighboring towns into something that we could compost and sell and make a little money on. But this ordinance, again, is all about trust. It's all about trusting the representatives from the Shade Tree Commission, who've been on the commission for up to 17 years, know what they're doing, are certified tree experts, and it really doesn't break any new ground. The only thing new that I could see is that section 10 that says you have to notify your neighbor in case there's a tree within close proximity of the property line or on the property line. Other than that, really not, really not reinventing the wheel here. Everybody's getting upset about certain things, but nobody's really, other than Ed, who mentioned a couple of specific sections that he has problems with and can be easily dealt with. No one else has really pointed to any particularly offensive language.
But I did.
So, but you didn't read the whole thing. You didn't read the exemption.
But if you're going to exempt it, why does it have to be there? In other words, somebody came up last year after the storm, and this was a public tree. I forgot the street, but I know the number of the house was 745. And it was that huge tree that she had come up earlier and complained about safety, and then we had that, it was the Halloween storm or whatever. Right. She came up and a bunch of stuff fell, and it was very dangerous, and that was a public tree that we had told her she couldn't take down originally, and then after that we told her she could.
That's right.
Okay.
That was a borough shade tree.
Right, and I get that on a borough property. My concern would be is if somebody has a huge oak on their property that they feel unsafe about. Somebody feels unsafe, but it's not a construction thing, it's not anything. They just feel uncomfortable. They don't know why, but it's a perfectly healthy tree, but what's that mean? I have a perfectly healthy tree on my property. They said that, but it could...
They could take it down. They don't need anything. That's what the ordinance says.
That's not, I'm not a lawyer, but it doesn't seem to be...
You only need a permit.
So then why do you need to have that as an exemption? Why does it have to be an exemption? Why can't it just be that no private property trees are touched? Why does it have to state that and then have all these exemptions?
Because right now, there is already jurisdiction under our zoning code, under our site plan review for the shade tree to get involved. That's why this ordinance has to be consistent with what we already have on the books. That's the answer. That's the same answer I gave you 10 minutes ago. All right, let's call for the vote.
Councilman Murphy?
Yes.
Councilman Ford?
No.
Councilman Walker?
No.
Councilman McNally?
No.
Councilman Bartoloni?
No.
Councilman Papaleo?
I would like to say just before I vote that we have two lawyers on the council who have clearly stated over and over again that this ordinance doesn't really raise the issues that others have said it does raise. And when you have professionals who have given their professional advice saying this ordinance is a good ordinance, I don't understand why you'd vote no. I vote yes.
All right. The ordinance fails. Thank you for all your hard work. Don't keep the faith. What can I tell you?
I could say this: reintroduce an ordinance that covers specifically borough-owned trees, and it will pass. That's very simple. This isn't like
offered the language.
It'll never come back to this council. I mean, we made it clear at the last meeting that this was flawed. And what was the response that we got back? An ordinance that had additional requirements in it. Not less, but it had 2 more provisions in it. I don't understand how it could be thought that this council hadn't really made it clear after the first reading, and then to come back with an amended ordinance which was even more onerous than the first ordinance that was presented to us. That I can't quite understand. So, I just don't understand. And to rely on the good faith and goodwill of a government organization is ridiculous, I think. Regardless of the people who are there now, they may not always be there, and you can't rely on the good faith of government. Ronald Reagan said the 9 most dangerous words in the English language: I'm from the government and I'm here to help. And it's true. When, in what capacity, and what right should individual citizens relinquish their rights to a government body and tell them, this is your property, we say you can't take down your tree, or we're going to interfere with your tree, I just don't see the right of government to do that. I think that's a complete overreach. The fact that we put in retention wall for waters, because that is going to directly affect the neighbor and property, and that creates a private nuisance, which we're trying to avoid by having runoff onto that property. The tree is not that, it's just not that case. It's just not.
This
All right.
is just an observation for the sake of the council, but I think virtually every municipality in Bergen County regulates private trees. So the fact that River Edge has chosen to feel that private trees are so sacrosanct that we can't touch them is not consistent with what at least the majority of the people in Bergen County feel. You've got to look at it in the context of land development. It's not that no one's telling you can't remove a tree on your property. And all we're saying is that when you have a tree removal in the context of a development, we're saying the government should have a say. It's the same thing with permits. Why not let someone just build an addition on their property? Why do you regulate additions on your property? It's your land. I want to build something. I don't care if it blocks the view of my neighbor because I build it 35 feet high when the ordinance says you can only go 30 feet, so why don't we allow people to build 35 feet? It's private property. So a tree, which is a natural organic element, is regulated because basically it makes for good planning. And I think basically it preserves what I think is perceived to be a very essential element of life. By not having this, we are basically not only the minority, we're probably one municipality in all of Bergen County that doesn't have a regulation of a tree ordinance. Some of them are very simple. I mean, I can tell you for a fact, like Fort Lee, if you take down a tree, you have to pay $250 or $300, or you have to plant the tree. It's very simple. This ordinance has a little bit more text to it. It went through a lot of opinions from various construction code officials. I can't say it's a perfect ordinance, but I think it deserved a better consideration from this council in the context of regulating property development. Otherwise, everyone could decimate all their trees on their property. I mean,
But those plans are already covered under the planning and the zoning boards. If it's something of that scale, yes, there is.
They're not covered.
If the impetus for the ordinance was the street trees, everybody acknowledges that. That's where the major problem was. Even if the problem is it morphed into something which was just untenable. And if the focus, and if the main problem that we need to address, the problem with developers and street trees, we could have had a clean ordinance addressing street trees. If you want to address private trees another time, we can address private trees another time. But we had the opportunity tonight to just strike that language from this and pass a street tree ordinance. And that's what the original intent of the Shade Tree Commission was. And we could have had that. I mean,
I think what they attempted to do, Ed, is basically place it in the realm where you have development. Where there is development, we're not saying if you as a private owner don't like a tree, which you find to be very threatening. You know, the last few years when we had these big storms, people look at trees as almost an instrument of fatality. They see a large tree, they see a heavy wind, and they just have visions that, this thing's going to come down on my house. We do have a lot of mature trees in town. But I think in the context, the whole purpose of this ordinance, the way it was framed, was to try to put it in the context of a development. So that in those instances where people pull a permit, just like they want to build a building, could we allow them just to build any building? Can you build it right up to your boundary line so your neighbor's window and you can look into each other's windows? We feel, look, there is an element in organizing development or any kind of land development, and trees are part of that. And so that the context in which the ordinance was developed and struck was to try to regulate those instances where people do pull permits and want to develop their properties. So, I mean, the whole idea of carving out that exemption was to give you that leeway, like Paul feels that he doesn't want people to tell him if he wants to remove a tree. And this ordinance doesn't prevent Paul from removing trees. He can remove all the trees on his property. He doesn't even have to replant them.
Every tree.
Every tree. So this covers only those situations where if you pull a permit and you get government involved because you're developing your property, then as part of that context, landscaping is as much a part of a development as height, distance from your neighbor, setbacks, So tree and locations of trees become important in that context. That was the attempt. I mean, obviously, I think a lot of us feel that we kind of missed the mark here, but I think we're definitely in the minority in terms of the preservation of trees in Bergen County. There's no doubt in my mind.
Kathleen,
Can we reintroduce this ordinance and remove that language?
if you have a motion and a second, you could do whatever you feel like.
I would like to make a motion to reintroduce this ordinance and remove the private property language.
Second.
All right, let's have a roll call. Any further discussion? Let's have a roll call.
Councilwoman Murphy?
Yes.
Councilman Ford?
Yes.
Councilman Foster?
This would go through the same process, first reading, second reading?
No, what'll happen is that if the motion passes, Sam will take this ordinance, either scrap it or amend it and remove language that he feels affects private property. It'll be on for a work session for discussion once we've discussed it, and I hope everybody's prepared to discuss it and to point out any additional language that they feel is of some concern. Then once it gets there's a consensus at a work session, then we can put it on for a first reading, so we don't go through this again.
Councilman Falco?
Yes.
Councilman Murphy?
Yes.
Councilman Bottomoli?
Yes.
Councilman Foster?
Yes.
All right. Next we have on for, no, I guess we're going to have to open to the public before putting on the resolutions by consent.
No, that was for the ordinance.
All right, that was for the ordinance. All right, we have ordinances, we have resolutions number 12-197 up to and including resolution 12-217, I believe. Correct.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstained? All right, now we can open the hearing to the public. Do I have a motion?
No payment of bills?
Oh.
We'll just put it by consent.
I had a question about the bills.
What did you?
I don't want to say...
We already did the bills.
I'm sorry. Chairman, no.
Let's do formally Resolution 12-217.
Whereas vouchers for the payment of goods and services rendered to the Borough of River Edge have been received, and whereas each bill has been checked by the receiving department, approved by the Chief Financial Officer and Borough Clerk, and reviewed by 3 members of the Finance Committee. Now therefore be it resolved that bills as listed now be confirmed for payment from the appropriate funds as follows. Current account, $332,760.71. Capital account, $2,672.65. Recreation account, $3,064.60. Trust other account, $661.01. Open space account, $1,156.60. Trust other developers account, $5,320. So moved.
I had
Is there a
question.
second?
Second.
Before we call the vote, Councilwoman Murphy, you had a
I just want to ask
comment?
Alan, the first 3 were protested checks. What is that?
Those are checks that bounce on our account.
We bounce them, or someone bounced them to us?
Somebody bounced those for
Oh.
us. We don't bounce checks.
Just checking.
All right,
Okay, thank you.
all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstained? All right, can I have a motion to open the meeting to the public?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, the meeting is open for anybody to make a comment. You just have to stand and give us your name and address, and if you want to, you can approach the microphone and make your comment. No comments from the public. Peggy, no comment. Nothing. Neil, no comment. No comment. Okay. I went to my regulars. Can I have a motion to close the hearing to the public?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Council comments. We can begin with Councilman Papaleo. Any comment?
No.
Councilman Bartoloni.
Thank you, Mayor. Just, I know when it's all flushed out, we will have an ordinance that protects borough trees. And there may be an ordinance, very simple, very straightforward, in terms of replacing costs, so that if you do take a tree down as part of a large-scale development, which we will define, the size and scope of that development so that it's not, perhaps limited to homeowners or whatnot, but we'll work out the details so that you can then replace borough trees or a fund to go to shade tree to do that work. I think that can be worked out, but I just think lumping it together just didn't make sense, and the ordinance that was before us was simply flawed. We would all hope that when someone does development on a piece of property, that they'll landscape it properly, and that people will act accordingly. Myself, I've taken down trees in my property since I bought it. I've also put back 10 trees and a number of bushes and shrubs that didn't exist when I first bought the property, because it is important. They are a resource, but you have to balance that, like Paul said, against individual property rights. And regardless of what, with all due respect to Mr. Soresti, what the rest of Bergen County is or isn't doing, that can't affect my decision-making. The rest of Bergen County may simply be wrong. But I think we will have legislation and an ordinance in place that accomplish the goals that we originally sought to achieve. And also, I'm happy today we did pass the resolution for the Special Events Committee. That got kind of lost in everything else going on. But I think that's going to be a great asset to the borough. If anyone's interested in being on that committee, let us know.
I have 2 people that are applying.
Excellent. Thank you.
Ed?
No comments, Mayor.
Johnny? Paul?
No comment, Mayor, thanks.
Kathleen?
I just wanted to, I went to the DARE 5th grade graduation over at Riverdale Middle School, so congratulations to all the police officers and students that participated in that project. There was a few hundred people there, and they all did a great job. Also, the letters that we got regarding some of the police department for their help with certain situations. There was Officer Daniel Lee, Dennis Griffith, and Anthony Roman, and Napperstack. So good work to them, and the letters that we got from the public. And that's it.
All right. I want to echo the comments by Al, that I'm very happy that we have a newly formed Special Events Committee. I think it's going to be a big asset to the borough in public events that we're going to have in the future, to make sure that they're better organized. Not that they're well organized now, but we could, the committee for the 4th of July could certainly use the help, and we could use their expertise on other events that we're having throughout the year. I will report that on the upcoming estimated tax bills that are going out, we intend to include a portion of the estimated bill where residents that do not have access to the internet can fill out the bottom portion and send it back so that they can be registered for reverse 911 and Nixle, to catch any, to make sure that we have a more comprehensive listing to notify people in the event of emergency or natural disaster, especially those elderly people that don't have access to the internet. They can fill out the form when they get their tax bill and send it back, so that's a good thing. I will give a little update on my idea to have a dog park at Van Saun County Park. After this council adopted its resolution, and in support of that, I met with the county executive. I hand-delivered to Kathy Donovan a copy of the resolution, also the resolutions from neighboring towns who are in favor of it, also a copy of the petition signed by over 300 Bergen County residents in favor of the dog park. I met with Mr. Kistler, the director of the parks, and we inspected a potential site at Van Saun Mr. Kistler is going to see if there is funding available to design the park and to get some preliminary cost estimates. So that is hopefully in the works. This Saturday, I attended the Mayor's Kayak Race at the... the Mayor's Kayak Race at the...
Are they online?
At the Hallworth and the Oradell Reservoir.
Yeah, I didn't see you on the patch.
Councilman Courts was supposed to take my place, but at the last minute, he threw out his back.
Sure.
But there were 10 mayors that... There were 10 mayors that raced. I came in 5th. I did beat Mayor Sabrizi. Very happy about that. Even though she's never been in a kayak or a canoe before,
Who was 6, 7, 8, 9,
I was
10?
able to out-paddle her. So I'm proud that it didn't come in last.
Where did Ordell land?
3rd?
Oh, no, Oradell came in 6th or 7th, behind me.
Did Mayor Murray, he wrote?
He didn't know. He
No,
didn't
no,
know.
the council president in Oradell wrote it. And I just want to thank everybody for turning out for the Memorial Day celebration. We had it was a beautiful ceremony. It was well attended by the public, and we got a break in the weather, and everything was fine. Yesterday, Alan and I and other members, we went to the Eagle Scout ceremony at St. Peter's. That was also a great event, and I knew that Alan was an Eagle Scout, even without him getting up in public and telling me. I knew that he was an Eagle Scout just by his temperament and the way he conducts business. He's always well prepared for any emergency. So with those comments, I can take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. He did, but I had
4 o'clock tomorrow.
I don't even know his name.
Time every day.
I pick up my own mom.
When does the,
12:30.
when does it open?
Where'd they go?
8 a.m. I have to inspect before that. Must be that far.
All right, can I have a motion to go into executive session to discuss a matter for which the public is not allowed to participate?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the topic and issue is contract negotiation and involves the contract with appraisal systems for the 2012 reassessment. The report will be given by our Borough Attorney, Sam Zareski. Sam?
Yeah, I met, I should say, in Hackensack, New Jersey, at Bob Layton's office